Hello, and welcome to Faith and Film. This is the podcast where we look at your favorite movies through the lens of the Christian faith.
This podcast will be exploring films old and new, exploring all genres and ratings. We'll be sharing our thoughts and giving our own perspectives on the quality of the film as well as the content.
We'll ask questions like, does the main character know Jesus? How does this movie align with biblical values?
At the end of each episode, we'll give you our PureFlix or Netflix rating, a simple way to decide if this movie is better suited for a faith-based audience or if it falls into a more worldly catalog.
So let's get to it.
So Sweet Home Alabama is our second movie. Are we gonna call it second episode, or are we just gonna say
Number two. I don't know.
Okay, so
That's what comes to mind when I think of this movie. Ha ha ha.
First thing I noticed right off the bat, we have another childhood proposal, like in The Naturals, like.
Yeah. The difference being that childhood in The Natural, as far as them saying like, hey, I want to get married to you, I want to get married to you too, was
Like real.
after high school.
Yeah, they're like actually.
Yeah, as opposed to this, which I guess younger than 10. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
But, at an age where some people say, oh, it's cute, it's fine, and I would argue, why do you encourage this in children? Like, it's just a bad idea.
Yeah. And my dad thinks that too. He's like, never let me play house or anything like I was a kid. He's like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But they did that. That's what they did. And then they got struck by lightning, which I guess is like makes them soulmates.
I think it's done mostly for thematic purposes, right? The whole like lightning never strikes the same place twice.
Yeah.
They got hit when they were kids, and they were, together from that very young age all the way up through high school, right?
Yeah.
And then later in life, lightning strikes again.
Yeah.
Which I don't feel great about that.
Yeah.
But,
So let's get into her real proposal that happens with her New York City guy. Well, yeah, she's in New York City. She's not a country girl.
Okay, so for those of us following along at home, there's a montage of, 5 minutes that are, 30 years later,
Yeah.
or whatever it happens to be, where now she's a fashion mogul, New York City, fast-talking.
Yeah, she's moving up the ladder. They're like, she's the next big thing. And she's got a guy, and it's...
Shall be referred to
I didn't remember his name.
as Patrick Dempsey,
Yeah,
I guess, or
that's-
Mick Dreamy,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Either or. Same guy. But always in my head I was like, oh, that's Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be like the whole like setup of like, oh, she has a better option. But like the guy back home is her soulmate, like the Notebook type thing. But like I kind of didn't like him. Patrick Dempsey's character.
So, you don't like him because he's perfect, I'm guessing.
Well, no, at first I did. And there were moments where I did like him, but okay, they're together. He proposes, but he proposes to her in a jewelry store, which to me says this guy doesn't know, which is true, he doesn't know her.
Well,
We find out later he doesn't like know who her whatever.
it says he doesn't know her, but it also says that nobody says no to him,
Yeah.
right? Because, straight up, you make a proposal, we find out after 8 months.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Which seems insane to me, where it's like you've only known each other for 8 months. It's not like we're talking about, oh yeah, we've known each other for years and we've been dating for 8 months, and now I'm saying, hey, lifelong friend, would you like to get married? No,
Right.
It's we've known each other for 8 months. We've been together for that entire time, and now I'm taking you to a jewelry store and asking you to marry me.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't pretend to know much about women, but this much I can say with confidence. Seems like a real bad idea.
Yeah, it's not at all romantic. They play it like it's romantic. It's not. And just like the limited, there's not in a lot of scenes, right? But like the scenes that he is in, it just shows like they do not have like this deep connection. Like he don't know what she would like in a ring. He doesn't know. He didn't know like her parents. He never talked to them, never met them. He didn't want. He didn't tell his mom beforehand. He didn't. Who helped him make this
To
decision?
be fair, we find out that he is very involved in the lie that she is living in New York, right? So he thinks that he knows everything about her. He knows actually nothing about her.
Yeah.
He hasn't, like you're saying, met family, parents, whatever, but the family that she's made in New York are all very comfortable around him and chat about him and know him. So at least in that respect, while it still seems weird, I don't think that it's literally, from his perspective at least, like he's asking a stranger to marry him.
No, but I just don't see like, to me it feels like it's very surface level, which I guess is the point, right? Their connection is surface level. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna ask you about like the whole tradition of like asking parents blessings and stuff, like what you thought of that.
So I think that as far as traditions go, it is incredibly important because parents should love and care for their children, right? And if the plan here is for, like, let me backtrack a little bit. Societally speaking, and biblically speaking, because that's what we do here, men protect and care for women. They provide for them, they shelter them. Women and children go first, right? So if a father who has cared for his daughter her entire life, watched her grow up, raised her ideally well, is then going to essentially hand those responsibilities over to another man, it's very important for him to know that he can trust this guy at the very least to respect him and the woman enough to say, hey, I want to build a life with your daughter. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
And whether or not he says yes, there's all kinds of stories where they go against the father, and I'm fine with that, and all kinds of stories where they go against the father, and I hate it. It's very nuanced, right? But as traditions go, I like it.
Yeah. Me too. I feel like that's like, especially because I'm so close with my dad, like that's something that I feel like, that's why it's something that I noticed and something that's very important to me, because it's like I couldn't, my dad influences my opinion on everything. So if he didn't like somebody, I'm like, oh, even if I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this person's perfect, like, oh, my dad doesn't like them, oh, I guess I'm wrong. Like, I guess I don't like them. So I don't know. So that was like super weird to me. But what I did like is like later on, like how he is with his mother, like super like defending her and was like putting his mom in place the whole time. That's something that I don't see a lot. Like,
We'll
but we'll get
cross
to
that bridge when we
Yeah.
get to it,
Yeah.
I'd say, because I have thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then but we do meet his mom like right away, right? Right after they get engaged. So he proposed to her in a jewelry store. She said yes. They pick out a
She
ring.
said, okay, yeah, we can lightning round this. She says yes after saying, are you sure? No.
Oh,
Are you
yeah,
really
she
sure?
did, yeah.
Are you absolutely certain? I don't think I want to marry you, but I can't really say no, right? Like, I don't want to break up with you. You're kind of perfect. So sure, I guess. And then I'll, bury all of the skeletons in my closet real quick.
Right.
So that's what happens, which I guess we can skip over all that and say she says yes.
Yeah. Well, I think in the moment, like we were watching it, it's just like her. I think we could see it as a silly moment, but I don't think it's like really shows until later on where she's like not willing to let go of her past.
Yeah.
But I don't even think she realizes it in this moment that she doesn't really
It's-
want
Women.
him.
Do you even know what you want? Half the time the answer to that is no.
Yeah. I mean, at least in this movie, is what happens pretty much
Yes.
just her not knowing.
Yeah, which, again, I might joke and say women, 99% of women are not like this, and please don't aspire to be anything like this.
Yeah.
Like, yes, if I saw this girl on the street, I'd be all like, please no. Like, just stop. Just don't be you. But, okay, so yeah, we meet mother-in-law, and she is my favorite character in the story.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, because
She's right. She's right
she
about
is
everything
correct
the whole
about
time.
everything the entire time. She does not pull her punches or mince words, and she is proven to be incredibly intelligent and good at reading people, like politicians are.
Yeah.
So the fact that she's the governor of New York City or the mayor of New York City,
She's a mayor. Yeah.
mayor. Okay. So she's a politician and she acts like it and is written like it. And immediately she's like, I don't like her.
Yeah.
I don't like her. I don't like her. I don't like her. And
Yeah,
of
she's
course the
hiding
son is
something,
like,
we
but
don't
she's
know her."
hot. And then, yeah, so our introduction to her is, no, if my son was getting engaged, he'd tell me.
Which you would think
Yes.
any parent would be like, oh, at least he'd be a real, like, family. The son would tell her, like, when he's even thinking about it, like, hey, I'm thinking about proposing. If they have a healthy good
Yeah,
relationship.
but as we find out, they don't have the healthiest of relationships, but you still think that the first calls would be to, parents,
Yeah.
best friends, somebody, but she wants to bury it, so he goes, okay, I guess we'll just not tell anyone ever. And then she proves exactly how smart she is, meaning Reese Witherspoon's
Yeah.
character, when she goes, oh no, I don't want to take the ring off, I'll just turn it around and then shake everybody's hand.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, her mother is like, huh, she seems to be wearing a very expensive ring on a very important finger. Care to explain yourself? To which everybody facepalms. They're like, oh no, we were trying to keep it a secret, but we're all retarded. Oh no. Like, that's
And
pretty much how I felt
it
about
shouts
it.
it like on the red carpet or whatever event the gala is for, where there's like hundreds of people surrounding them with cameras.
Yeah, again, playing the very shrewd politician in that my son is engaged, this is news,
Yeah.
right? This positive news, this will get us in headlines in a very good way.
And it did. She did get some higher approval ratings, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Don't really know how to feel about that other than I kind of wonder why high fashion exists both in real life and in this movie if she can climb to the top of it.
I liked her designs. For being in the early 2000s, I was like, people still dress like that.
Okay.
But you think, like, isn't that long? But it was a while ago. So I was like, I don't know.
I mean, 20 years is a chunk of change.
Yeah, so for
like,
it to
yeah.
still be... That's what I was worried about, because a lot of fashion movies I watched, and I'm like, okay, this is a talented person, I guess. But this one I was like, okay, I wasn't like, oh, it wasn't hideous. It was definitely like Macy's stuff for me. I was like, okay, I can see it.
Yeah. She paid attention to the fashion in the beginning. I did not. So I'll take your word for it.
And then, okay, what happens next? He wants to go and meet her family finally, and she's like, nah, I gotta tell them first by myself. And he just is like, okay.
Yeah, so the way that this is painted is kind of okay. Like, I don't mind it tons, right? When she goes, no, like, I'll break the news to them myself. I haven't been home in forever, right? It's about time I visit, and I need some family time. And then I'd love to, get a week in ahead of you, and then you can fly in, we can meet up, hit the town, whatever else. And that is something that, if I were to get engaged and my fiance said, like, hey, let me tell my parents, let me spend some time with them, and then, yeah, fly out and we'll hang out because there's no way I'm getting engaged without knowing her parents already. So, that seems to me like something I just go like, oh, okay, I, I'll worry about getting the time off work, I guess, or, something like that. It seems pretty reasonable. Didn't have to stretch much for me, but obviously we immediately find out that that's all BS.
Yeah, she has some business to take care of.
Yes, yeah, we'll call it that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay. Yeah.
No, let it out.
She couldn't have saw her parents first, and it doesn't make sense that she wouldn't. I guess that she wouldn't have seen her parents in years, because when they set it up, when she's with her friends, they're all making fun of her accent, making fun of how southern she is. So we kind of, the first impression is that she's like grounded, and then she's immediately like, "Yeah, I haven't seen them in years."
Yeah,
That's
but
crazy.
we have a reference personally. The one who chose this movie, Jennifer, our pastor's wife, was native to Tennessee for what, the first 20, 25 years of her life before doing mission trips, coming to California, moving to California, getting married, so on and so forth. And now she lives here and she has, I don't know, for the past 30 years, I guess. That's me taking a stab at how old she is without being wildly offensive. And she still has the accent, and it comes out sometimes more than others,
Yeah.
right? So I could see someone who graduated high school in Alabama and then moved to New York, still, like she says, she speaks normally, but then she falls asleep and starts talking in her sleep and is like, how the hell y'all are? And everybody just goes, your accent comes out when you're sleeping. It's so cute. And, like, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy to me that, yeah. Because I think she says, like, how long? Like 7 years she didn't come home?
Sure. I don't remember.
It was like years, but it was
But
like
yeah,
something that was like,
they haven't seen each other in years,
Yeah.
which I guess we can, again, tackle that when we get to it. But for now,
so
she
doesn't see
doesn't
them
fly
first.
in to see family.
No.
She doesn't fly in to do anything except for let us know that she got married to the boy at the beginning, right out of high school, and that they are still married despite the fact that she just said that she would like to marry somebody else because he has not signed divorce papers.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about this?
I was like, oh, that's what this is? I definitely came out of nowhere for me. I was like, they have so much animosity towards each other where I'm like confused why at first, like why he wouldn't sign the papers, because he don't want her there. He doesn't want to talk to her. They're arguing. He tries to have her, has her arrested, and it's like, they obviously, but I guess I'm stupid because they don't hate each other. I don't know.
I mean, if I were to look at it from his point of view, like massive cuck energy aside, it's pretty good character writing because she shows up, sign the divorce papers, sign the divorce papers, sign the divorce papers. As we find out later, the only thing she wants from him is a divorce, and the only thing he wants from her is a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes, that would make me angry too if theoretically I was married to somebody who I let run away, but still held that candle for, who just kept coming back and saying, just freaking break up with me already. Just break up with me already. Just break. I'd be like, no, get out of here. We said till death do us part. Shut up. Like, if you want to be my wife, you're welcome. If you don't, then, we need distance so that I don't, do something that I'll regret again. But aside from that, I think honestly it's played up for drama a lot. Something that I thought was really well done in this scene was it shows you exactly who she is in like 30 seconds or less. Because as they're arguing back and forth, the dog is barking the entire time, and both of them say shut up, and then they say different names for the dog.
Oh, I
And
didn't
she
catch that.
finds out, yeah, she says Bear, he says Bryant. And she finds out what happened to Bear. And he just says, you weren't here. Right? And that immediately, just like, that's her character in 30 seconds or less. She abandoned everything and she did not look back. Right? She had a dog with her husband who died, and she didn't even care to find out.
Right.
Right? Like, literally, if she had called any of her friends or family, you think that somebody would have mentioned it at some point, like, oh, I'm so sorry your dog died, right? Because that's not, like, especially in close-knit communities, that's not something that people tend to handle super well.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, my dog died, let's never speak of it again, right? But yeah, so that I appreciated, but then everything just kind of devolves into dramedy chaos. I don't know, did you appreciate the scene?
Yeah, I liked learning more about who she is, like, actually, like the little stories and like tidbits from people that she runs into, and they bring up like all these memories of her and all the crazy things she did when she was there, when she was like happy and like young and stuff, and compared to when she's just stressed
Yeah.
out and lying.
Young and free and not caring about her reputation. So yeah, we do get quite a few little snippets of interesting stories that build essentially a legend around who she was
Yeah.
versus who she is, playing up the dichotomy and, you know, the duality of self, I suppose, if you wanted to get super artsy with it. But the bottom line is she lied for a long time to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and now she's having to face her past. And at every turn she says, nah, 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 sign the divorce papers. I'm not here to reminisce, I'm not here to visit, I'm here so that you will sign the divorce papers. Which, it's really funny because she pisses him off to the point where he calls the cops, right?
Yeah.
Followed by something that you mentioned earlier, right?
What about her getting arrested?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then she calls her parents finally after apparently years of not talking to them.
Yeah. Now, imagine, if you will, a long-lost friend, right? Because that's a great deal more reasonable. People have long-lost friends. Long-lost children, typically not so much, but long-lost friend, imagine the first time you hear from them in at least half a decade is them calling you to pick them up from jail.
Yeah. And what's the saddest thing from that scene is when she's on the phone with her mom. She was like, "Oh, I thought I'd surprise you." And the mom's like, "Oh, well, this is a surprise." And then she's like, "The phone call's not the surprise." The fact that the mom thought like the big surprise was a phone call from her daughter, that's so sad.
Yeah, it is sad, and I appreciate the little bits, little jabs that her mom gets in, right? When she's like, yeah, Oprah calls it multitasking. I would call people when I'm doing the dishes or, you know, folding laundry. But the fact that it is passive aggressive and, you know, nobody is willing to call her on her crap except for the vilified mother-in-law does bug me.
Yeah. Yeah, because then all the people that she runs into, like, this day, then the next day of, like, her seeing people from her past, they're, like, kind of happy to see her, and then they're kind of, like, passive aggressive towards her for, like, leaving, because they have to live with the parents and
Yeah.
the husband of, like, them. So they're kind of, like, nice. Oh, nice to see you. And it's like, oh, okay, city girl, like.
It's It's a very Southern hospitality thing. I am familiar. I don't know. Have you? Okay. Right. You guys, when you moved from Colorado, you went way up north.
Yeah, I'm from Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Okay. So opposite end, but same-ish thing.
Yeah.
From what I know of Midwesterners, it's very similar. But yeah, they're very like, oh hey, it's great to see you. Too bad we haven't talked in like 5 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, welcome. Come on in, have a beer. You still drink beer, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not a fancy city folk, right? And they just tease her relentlessly, trying to essentially initiate her back into the family, but they're super welcoming. Despite the fact that everybody knows that she left and she's not back for real.
Yeah.
And all of these things, but they're so authentic that they don't know how really to deal with that. Right? They're not going to play politics or do any of that. They're just like, oh, then I guess we'll have a great time while you're here.
Right.
Which I think is kind of the point of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, yeah, there's that. So we meet the ex, we meet a couple of former friends, one of whom is the cop who arrests her, right? The teller at the bank is somebody that she used to know from high school who apparently lost a bunch of weight, right? And, yeah, there's just a bunch of interesting little interactions
And
that
then
happen.
when she meets that lady this is like a little while later, but that lady in the bar that has her kid with her at the bar, the baby with her.
Oh,
They have
yeah.
like a weird thing
It's
where
a
like
chunk later.
she kind of like looks at her in a way because she like, I guess, I don't know, because she's a mom or whatever. And at the time I'm like, why is she like staring at that baby? But we find out why like later on. But it's like kind of interesting the way they talk.
Sure. I suppose. Because, honestly, I didn't... I guess that's the difference between our perspectives, right? Because for me, when she noticed that, she's like, you have your baby in a bar. And I was like, yeah, why would you have your baby in a bar?
Yeah, that's the joke. But then like they have like a couple scenes together. Mm-hmm. Where like she's got like watching
She's
her,
got
like,
her
be a
little
mom.
ducklings, yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like kind of interesting where it's like, okay, like mom, businesswoman, and they're kind of like both looking at each other like, okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we meet Bobby Ray, who is another pretty good character, but he doesn't really escape the movie unscathed either.
Yeah.
He's a little too good for this world, I suppose. But yeah, so he starts catcalling her, which is very funny given all the context that we get.
Yeah.
Right? So he's just like, hey, mama. Hey, pretty lady, you want to ride? Hey, and she's on the phone while he's screaming all of this at her from the middle of the street. And I don't know, it made me laugh because they play it, I don't know if the actors know each other, but they play it basically perfectly.
Yeah.
Where he's just driving by casually, starts slowing down and like yelling at her, and then she gets off the phone and goes, okay, Bobo, why don't you kiss my, oh my gosh, Bobby Ray, and then he gets out of the car, just like parks it in the middle of the street because, small town.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love their dynamic. They like have like a really good friendship and like all the things that happen between them. It's really nice. Because like, I feel like like you have a friend like that you have a closeness with.
Yeah, except all of my close friends are not immune to holding me responsible for things that I do. Like, Bobby Ray seems to be allergic to just telling her that she's wrong.
Oh, no. Because that's the kind of friend that he is. He's just along for the ride. Like, he feeds into her lie, even. It's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay, but there are things that you do to cover for your friend, but then as soon as that's over with, you go, okay, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah,
no, I don't want you to get arrested, but as soon as we're alone, I'm going to tell you, no, it wasn't a good idea to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where
But
he
yeah.
just like laughs it off. It's like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl, please.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Pretty
Yeah.
much.
But yeah, so we toured the town just a bit, but I think the best takeaway here is after she gets arrested, she actually has to go home and is confronted with her parents, who are both incredibly reasonable and unreasonable,
Yeah.
and they don't seem like characters
No,
to
her
me
mom
at all.
specifically really confused me the entire movie.
Yeah.
Because she's like, you never visit. And then Reese Witherspoon's character, she's like, well, I bought you tickets to come visit me. Like, how come you didn't use those? And she's like, well, you know, planes go both ways. And it's like, girl, she bought you a ticket. Go see your daughter. Like, and
Yeah.
then her whole, like, how, like, she didn't want her to end up like her. And she was like, oh, I want you to get far away from this town. But she did, and you're mad. Like,
Well, that
I don't want you to be like me, but, like,
yeah, like there's all kinds of just, but both mom and dad just annoyed
yeah.
me very much so with whoever decided to write them. Neither one of them are really characters,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Him super. He's just there.
Yeah, he's just the, I don't know. It seems like a woman's caricature of what her husband is after like 50 years of marriage.
Yeah, because he doesn't. He's just like, okay, I got my chair.
And I
I
got my
got my
beer.
Civil War
And I'm
reenactments.
watching the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
that's who he is.
mom with all the conflicting character motivations and
Yeah.
everything like
I
it
don't know what
is.
she's about.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to me, right? Because it seems like the writers at any given time are just writing whatever they need her to do to push drama into the
Yeah.
situation, where it's all like, 1 second, I'm mad at you for not visiting me, but I refuse to visit you, but I welcome you home, but we haven't talked for years, but I'm excited to talk to you, and I love you, and I don't want you to be me, which,
But also come home.
yeah, but also come home and visit and, spend time with us and everything. And it's like, I realize that people can have contradictory beliefs that they like self-rationalize, but not like this, right? Because if you are proud of your daughter and you love her and you love your husband and you have lived a life that you have enjoyed, right, then you don't say things like, I don't want you to live the life that I lived. Because if your
Yeah.
daughter lived the life that you lived, then you'd be like, oh, you didn't achieve anything great, but you're happy, right? And one would think that if mom isn't happy in her life or with the choices that she made, that she would be doing what every other 50-year-old woman in that situation does and get a divorce and then write a self-help book.
Well,
Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's what confused me too, because even later on when they're having a conversation, she's like, I don't want you to end up like me. And Reese Witherspoon's character's like, well, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with being you?
right.
You
And
know?
then mom immediately starts backpedaling and yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there like, really? Your daughter just asked the most simple, like the easiest question, when you go, I don't want you to end up like being me. A 2-year-old will be all like, well, what's wrong with being you, mom? Like,
Yeah.
why not? Is the question that immediately comes to mind. You can't tell me that you never asked yourself that.
Yeah.
If you're constantly saying to your kids, don't end up like me.
Yeah, and it's kind of like out of nowhere and like not in place with the movie at all, because their little like small town lifestyle is very much romanticized throughout the movie, so it's not even
Yeah.
shown that there is anything wrong with the way that
Yeah.
that lifestyle is.
Which, to be fair, there is very much so like a right answer and a wrong answer in the movie, right? Where it's all like, oh, look at all this glitz and glamour, but as soon as she goes back home, everything about New York becomes a negative,
Yeah.
right? Where she's like, oh, out here it's not about the money.
Yeah.
Out here, people just take their time and have fun, right? Out here, nobody's going to get offended. It's fine. Come on in,
Yeah.
right? Out here, we don't need to make plans. We just go knock on somebody's door.
Yeah, and that's very much the message of the movie. So it's like to even
Yeah.
have that scene.
Where she's like, don't end up like me.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
That's not even what the movie's saying. So it's like, why have her say it?
Yeah.
Pretty weird. But
But
yeah.
yeah, then we get the random, essentially pointless detour that functions as a second act low point. The where she goes back over to the bank, finds out they have a joint checking account.
I actually love that.
And proceeds to do something very, very, very stupid. I don't understand. Like you love that, so
I
why don't
love
you?
that as it was very entertaining, and I was like, yeah, like annoyed because like to me, I'm watching it and I'm like, that's kind of crazy. He doesn't want to give her a divorce. Like, why are you waiting on someone that is saying that she don't want nothing to do with you? She don't want to come see you. She don't want to be with you, and you're just like, no, you have to because I'm not signing this. So I'm super not rooting for him. And so she's like, okay, you want a wife? Like, here's a wife. Here you go. This is what you wanted. Like, annoying him into signing it. It doesn't work. This strategy doesn't work, but it was very entertaining to
Like,
watch her try
that-
and push him into that.
Okay, so you were entertained by that.
Mm-hmm.
It just confused me because that is just not how men work. Like every guy that I've ever known, there's a fundamental understanding that if you want somebody to do something, all you have to do is make it a competition or some sort of oppositional force. Right. So if you want him to sign divorce papers, then going to him and saying, I'm going to try to force you into compliance. It's like, no, when you push a guy, he pushes back.
So what have you have had her do in that situation?
What
Years and
would
years
I
of
have
him
had
not
her
signing
do?
it.
I'd have her lock herself in a room for at least a week. And, then I'd say, like, sure, you can leave as soon as you present me with an essay detailing everything that you think you've done wrong. Okay? And then I would break that down with her and make sure that she understands everything. But for the purposes of this, in the situation, she wants a divorce from him,
Yeah.
which she is not going to get easily.
Yeah.
Okay? Lawyers. That's all it comes down to, is literally you cannot trap somebody in a marriage, and he's not even trying. He's just refusing to sign divorce papers. So getting it annulled, there are all kinds of other options that don't involve her going to see him, but then the movie doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I'd say to her, because literally there are ways that you can do this that don't involve him having the option to fight back.
Yeah.
Right? Even in court, right? People can say like, oh, but he can fight a court case. Like, no, if he tries to actually fight that, he loses, period. Like, women beat men in court.
Yeah.
That is what happens,
Yeah.
right?
Most of the time, yeah. Yeah, and I think thinking about that is probably like just her like confused mind,
Well,
finding ways to like
I mean,
still be around him.
like women and men do this obviously, right? But for the purposes of this discussion, women are very passive aggressive, and that's this coming to a boiling point, right? So instead of simply taking little jabs at him and, insulting him and then saying, sign the divorce papers, insulting him a little more, right? This is her crossing over into just pure aggression, right? Like, my tactics to fight you are now I'm going to spend all of your money. I'm going to be the worst version of this hellish wife that you seem to think that you want, right? We're going to have brand new appliances, and I'm going to move all your stuff and rearrange everything. Like, what is every stereotypical thing that husbands complain about their wives doing? Right? And that's what she decides that she is going to do. And yeah, to me, that just seems like it would be fun for him, which he realizes in the moment as well. You kind of see it. He's like, she's spending my money. And he gets angry, and then he immediately goes like, you know what? This is fine. Two can play at this game. I've got this hot young thing that's waiting on me. I'm going to go on a date. Right? And then you see her face. And she's like, how dare, right? And you're just like, see? Like, when you push an aggressive person, they push back. Mm-hmm. Right? So yeah, it didn't make any sense to me at all, but it is, I can see how it's amusing. And then she follows him to the bar, because literally, yes, he calls the girl up, decides to go down there with all his friends, and this girl is pretty obviously just like one of his friend's little sisters or something like that, because when Reese Witherspoon shows up and crashes their date, they're talking, and she walks up and interrupts their conversation, and then, you know, the girl that he was supposed to be on a date with is just watching it like it's a soap opera.
Yeah, she's just taking no back, and she's just like, oh, man.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there going like, okay, so obviously this is the trope of, hey, I just told her I had a date. Do you mind pretending to be on a date with me?
Yeah, because we're led to believe like he's working to better himself, to like fight for their relationship. He wouldn't be like dating.
Yeah, which I think is why he doesn't play into the charade too much once it's spoiled, because he goes, hey, darling, why don't you go get us a couple of drinks? And then she goes, okay, what do you guys want? And he's just like, no, not me and her, me and you. Right, like, we're on a date here. Oh, never mind. Like, whatever, get out of here.
Right.
And then they start arguing, and more of their friends show up, and it's very, again, something that I found to be troubling concerning her character, right? Because instead of being welcoming and everything when they're like, oh, it's time for a Melanie sandwich, which is obviously something they used to do.
Yeah.
She's like, ew, no, get away from me. Ugh.
Yeah, she gets very angry very fast when, like, they're all having a good time for the most part. Like, they're giving her little jabs, but they're pretty much having a good time. She just totally spirals and, like, offends everybody.
And gets... She... Instead of deciding to just play into the moment and have fun, slip back into her old high school self, decides to fight it as much as she can. Say like, no, now I'm better at this than you, and I'm better than that at you, and
yeah, she even says like, I am better than them.
Yeah, I'm going to air your dirty laundry and your dirty laundry and your dirty laundry, and you know, this is where we also get another issue that I wanted to bring up, which is, okay, neither is appropriate, but do you think, or neither is appropriate for her to be airing and throwing it out like an insult or using it against people, but do you think that it was a miscarriage or an abortion?
It was a miscarriage, because she said she was relieved. So she said she felt a bit bad because she was relieved. I think she lost the baby. And based on like the other scenes I saw with her and the other mom, the mom, the way she kind of looks at it, her with the child, I can see, like, I don't see regret. I just see, like, you know,
a little bit of yearning.
Yeah.
Or a what if. Okay.
Yeah. I don't see, you know.
Okay.
That's what I took from it.
I could go 50-50 with it, because every woman that I know that has had an abortion ends up regretting it and convincing herself that she's happy essentially, where you see a bit of the war within, like you do in this movie, where she's like, no, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, and then she'll like see a baby and be all like, and then be all like, I'm free, and then feel bad that she's like, wait, but I killed it, right?
Right.
Like, so I could see it going either way, but the fact that they bring it up so casually definitely was the main point toward abortion, because abortion is a choice. When you miscarry, you don't bring it up, you don't discuss it, you don't throw it around, because it is simply a tragedy. You were going to have a baby and the child didn't make it, right? You don't go like, oh yeah, the baby this, and you don't get drunk and be all like, oh yeah, well that's the night you got me pregnant, or stuff like that, because you know how the story ends. And it was essentially over before it began, right? So, I don't know. Either way, I think it's definitely points toward her if it's a miscarriage, because obviously we don't support abortion.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, it probably, and I guess it goes for both cases too, like why she would want to shut that part of herself down and cut off all those people that like she was close to at that time, and kind of want to bury like any memory of that. She doesn't really want to think about what happened.
Yeah, but that is interesting.
Yeah.
Like
why she wouldn't call or
a
be
point
home or,
toward that.
yeah.
She just wants to forget everything about it because it's all linked together in this little ball of,
Yeah. Because when she brings up her, like, oh, the night you... Was that when she's, like, she's at the dog's grave, right?
No, that's right before. Like, she literally pisses everybody off in the bar by airing everyone's dirty laundry, essentially. One by one, I think she has 3 big hits for 3 really important people to her. And then she's like, whatever, get me another beer. And they're just like, no, you've had enough. And she goes and walks outside, and for reasons that I don't understand, the dog's grave is right outside the bar, I guess. Which, she then finds and starts crying, goes like, I'm so sorry I let you down.
Yeah.
Which, a bit overdue, but, a dead dog isn't the one you need to be apologizing to.
Right, yeah. Because I'm thinking, like, if it was, like, before or anything like that, she might have been thinking about, death and, lives that she failed. It could have been her baby that she was thinking about, too, if it was, like, after that. I don't remember if it was before or after.
I mean, either way, we can talk about it thematically, but here she eventually talks with her ex and ends up, like, tonguing him, essentially, because she's going for the full-on French, and he's just like, ah, what are you doing?
Yeah.
No, like, I'm not going to take advantage of you while you're drunk.
Right.
Effectively, which is another point for him, right? Because regardless of the fact that you're married and you want her, you're still going like, no, like,
Not like
I want you, but I want you. I don't want, like, drunk idiot.
Right.
I'm just super lonely right now. Let's do something I'm going to regret later, you.
Yeah. And then from that point on, I think he keeps his distance from her. They don't talk again until the end, right?
Yeah, he basically signed,
Yeah,
well, kind of, because the fair, the county fair.
That's after that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, she goes to him.
Yep. But yeah, so after that, we then have the most, like, so that's the second act low point that essentially is completely artificially created. There's 0 point to it other than, I guess, the character development that she is, like, Okay, all the words that are coming to mind are a beep.
Yeah.
So we'll
Which
just go
is
with
like
that.
crazy that they all forgave her so quickly, especially is it Bobby Ray?
Yeah.
Yeah, he forgave her like right away. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, indeed. But she wakes up in the morning, hungover, sees dad getting ready for a Civil War reenactment.
Yeah.
And that is like the most pointless part of the movie. I don't know
And
why
they
this is
keep
even
bringing
in
it
there.
up. They keep talking about it. And they keep calling her the
Like,
Yankees. I'm like,
I mean,
okay.
I get it, right? Because in Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, Louisiana, right? Like they're proud to be Southern.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't want to forget the Civil War, right? And they don't want people to be confused and think that it was fought over slavery. But, that being said, it has literally nothing to do with the movie other than
Yeah.
this is Alabama.
Yeah,
Obviously, we should
that's
have a
all.
bunch of Confederates here.
Yeah. So
And yeah, I'm just sitting there going like, really? You're not going to make any kind of a point other than, Confederate flags belong in southern states, I guess. Like, why is this part of the movie? And it's kind of played for laughs, right? Because she
Yeah.
shows up and she goes, "Where's my dad?" And then a dead guy sits up and he goes, "Who are you looking for, darling?" Right? And then
Right.
they find out that her dad is about to surrender. He's in one of the regiments that's still alive. And she's like, "Okay, thanks." And then they all fall over again because they're
Yeah.
dead.
And how often does he do that? Because he's seen in his uniform like a couple times throughout the movie. So is this like a weekly thing that they do? Or
No, they say it at the Carmichael Manor or Carmichael Estate, where they're like, "Oh yeah, so every year we take a week and we reenact the battles and
Yeah, for the
the anvil
tourists.
blowing for the tourists and
Yeah.
everything." So I think that started up, and then for the rest of the movie from that point forward is just like reenactment week
Yeah.
for the town. So yeah, I mean, I think that once a week or like for a week a year
Yeah, we
would be
hear.
the answer to that.
Okay.
How often he does this.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he does have a good line, right? Where he's like, "Why do you do that?" And he's like, "Well, I mean, we don't want to forget. Like, those who forget history or ignore history are doomed to repeat it." Right? So, definitely good to have historically accurate reenactments and things like that so that people know what happened. And it's a good touristy thing for the town to make money, which is nice. But we have the only thing in the movie that made me laugh during this pointless. Well, I guess we shouldn't be skipping there already, right? Because she goes
Yeah.
over to the Carmichael
The whole
estate.
thing, yeah.
Would you like
To
to
apologize
walk us
to
through
Bobby
that?
Ray, and he's like, yeah. He like forgives her like that, and then she's gonna leave. But a guy posing as what is he from the New York Post or something? Posing as
Yeah, so he's a PI who pretends to be a reporter.
yeah, and he works for her fiance's mom.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna do a story on the wedding, and I need to take pictures of your house, I guess. Meet your family, whatever. And then she's like, nah. And he's like, I'll come back later. And then she's like, okay, this is where I live. And it's not where she lives, but.
Yeah, so you get this. Again, I could see how people would find it amusing scene of her, attempting to avoid all of the help and everyone who's running around the estate because it's tourist season,
Yeah.
right? And pretending like, this is the kitchen and this is the closet. That's my favorite room in the house because it was part of the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
And then Bobby Ray runs into them and just plays the part and goes like, "Oh yeah, I'm her cousin. I don't actually live here, but she does," and all that different stuff. And he just covers for her completely and then never calls her on her BS.
Yeah.
And then when they're done with the tour, to the satisfaction of the reporter and Melanie, they leave. She goes to the battlefield where she's looking for her dad. And this is where we get the only thing in the movie that made me laugh. So, ridiculous situation. Both husbands, right, the fiance and the ex, show up at the Carmichael estate at the same time, which is serendipitous to say the least, but,
Yeah.
I mean, for dramedy purposes, it happens. And then, being the little instigator that he is,
Yeah.
the ex is like, no, 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 I'm her cousin, dude. Don't even worry about it. She's down at the battlefield. I'll give you a ride.
Yeah. Which, does she use Carmichael as her, like, name in New York?
Yeah, she's Melanie Carmichael, the fashion designer.
That's crazy. She, like, never...
She stole Bobby Ray's...
Yeah, didn't talk to him about it.
Everything.
Get permission. And just was like, hey.
Yeah.
I feel like he would have been okay with it if she was like, hey. Can
I mean,
say
obviously he was.
Yeah, but, like, to not know that.
But yeah,
Be
she was
yeah,
like, I'm going to
say
steal
I'm
your
from-
life,
Yeah,
okay?
I'm going to say I'm from here. I'm going to say this is my name. Like, that's crazy. Her fiance doesn't even know her real name.
Yep. But yeah, so they chit and they chat a little bit on the drive over, and he starts talking about the girl he fell in love with, who was Melanie Smuter, not Melanie Carmichael, and telling stories about her. And the funny thing is, the fiance actually thinks like, oh, like she sounds cool.
Yeah,
which is funny because
she didn't
he's
even need to lie.
yeah.
She still would have
She
won
didn't.
over.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah. So they show up at the battlefield, and then you have this convergence of all four people being her dad, and both of the guys,
Yeah.
which, made me laugh out loud pretty hard, because initially it's all dramedy, right, where dad goes, oh, you must be the new fiance, Earl
Yeah.
Smuter, nice to meet you, and he just looks at her like, or looks at him like, Smuter, who are you?
Yeah.
And then realized like, oh, you're Melanie Smuter, that's not good. And he starts to look like a little confused and angry, and then
Rightfully so.
the ex-husband gets mad at her and leaves. And he goes, yeah, some cousin you got there. And she goes, no, he's my husband. And he goes, you married your cousin? And I was
he
like,
does not get past that quick too. He says it a couple of times.
you are
It's a lot for him.
You are dumb, but it is a very surprisingly funny dumb. Like, that was the only part of the movie where I was like, ha! Okay,
Yeah.
that was actually funny. That made me laugh. Yeah. But, I mean, needless to say, despite his massive... Dude, neither of these guys are good guys. Like, they're both perfect in their own way, I guess, but they're not good characters, shall we say, because at this point he should be cutting ties with her, period.
Yeah.
Or at least saying, okay, you're going to sit down and you're going to tell me everything right now.
Yeah.
But
he doesn't
instead,
even want to hear her out. He just is like, I'm gone.
well, I could see either way, right? But he doesn't commit to it.
No.
He literally is just like, I'm so angry. And then he goes and walks, and then
Literally
like
not even a
an
minute.
hour later.
Yeah.
It was like not even a minute in the movie.
Yeah.
Like
He don't even make it to his car. The dad stops him and he's like, hey, are you sure?
And then he goes, oh my gosh, I love her so much. She's so perfect.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Then he reproposes to her. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean...
If you'll still have me?
It's...
Wild.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just like, oh my gosh. Somebody just wants this to happen way too bad in the writer's room. They're like, oh, he's proposing for his second time and he forgave her and just forgot everything. And it's like...
They're like, let's have them... Let's have it be so dramatic. I'm not a fan of, like, when rom-coms do, like, the whole wedding thing, or, like, someone crashes a wedding, or someone leaves someone at the altar. Like, That's just not romantic to me. I hate seeing that happen.
Yeah,
This is one of those.
this movie is a standout for how much I dislike a lot of what happens in it, but my least favorite trope for rom-coms is the you're not the right pair, we're the right pair.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, the girl is with a different guy or the guy is with a different girl. And then they're like, okay, well, essentially now I get to be the homewrecker.
Yeah, I'm not a fan
And
of
somehow it's a
cheating.
happy ending. But
Okay, yeah. Do you see it as her cheating on her husband by being with this guy, or do you see it as her cheating on this guy by making out with her husband?
okay,
Or is she just
literally,
crappy all around?
it is both.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, presumably none of this is in the movie, but like they're all adults,
Yeah.
right? She's living alone in New York City. He's a really good-looking guy. She's a really good-looking girl. Like there's absolutely no way that she hasn't
Right.
cheated on her husband in like every conceivable fashion because she's now going to be getting married to this guy.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that, right? And then instead of, at the very least, right, you can have your own personal ethos regardless of the law, right? So you can do things that are right but are still illegal, okay? And in this case, legally speaking, she's still married, but as far as she's concerned, she's divorced,
Yeah.
okay? That's something I could get behind if she committed to it. She
Yeah.
does not at all, right?
Yeah. And then, like, even biblically speaking, it's all adultery, right?
Biblically speaking, it is gray, to say the least, because, like, marriage is a sacred covenant
Yeah.
that is not intended to be broken, except for under very specific circumstances, which are not laid out by God. They're laid out by the Pharisees, right? So the Pharisees were like, well, okay, but we're humans, we're imperfect, so realistically, we need rules that are, if a wife cheats on her husband, then he can divorce her, and presumably vice versa in the modern day, but I don't think it's written that way, because obviously it was, I don't even know, like 10,000 years ago or something.
Yeah.
But biblically speaking, if you don't want to be with somebody to the point where you try to legally and publicly get a divorce with them, you separate your lives entirely, and you're never going back, then I think that common law divorce is something that is not unbiblical, right? If that makes sense. Where, like, if two people are living together, you have common law marriage. If two people are separated for X amount of time, common law divorce, right? It just tracks with me as something that, again, if you're committed to it, right? Like, if we just twist this movie a little bit and we make the husband like some sort of an abusive drunk or something, then all of a sudden it's not a question of, oh, is this the right thing? It's like, no, it's the right thing, right? She doesn't want to be with him. He's a bad guy. She's never going back to him. Therefore, she wants to start a new life with somebody else. That's where things get a little gray, right? Because legally you're married, you're trying to but again, if you're committed, I could see it because we're human.
Yeah.
How about you?
Because the way, which is weird that they don't really talk about God a lot in this movie, because it's, they feel like that's a big part of Southern culture.
Yeah, but it's the antithesis of Hollywood.
Yeah. But I feel like her husband very much, like, is taking the marriage as seriously as he did, like, when they got married. He's very much committed to her, and that's why he doesn't want to give her the divorce. I feel like he doesn't give up on that until literally she's like, okay, this is the day. Like, even after he signed the divorce papers, he's still kind of, like, hoping she comes back until, like, she's like, okay, I'm getting married, like, on this day with this guy. Then he gives up. But like the whole time he's like, no, like we are married, like this is a marriage, and it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
She's gonna give me,
Which,
she's gonna come back.
if that's okay, so long-winded answer to the question about like, is this adultery? Right? I went through all of that to explain the nuance, but yes, she is adulterous on multiple accounts against multiple men.
Yeah.
Should he be fighting for their marriage? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, you say till death do us part. What a word's worth if you're just allowed to be all like, oh no, I don't feel like it anymore. Right? So I 110% agree with you there that he does this and he should be, in my humble opinion, though, you know, I mean, she's crazy.
Yeah, like
She's crazy. If
like,
I woke up married to her and she was like, divorce me, I'd be all like,
yeah, no problem.
yes. Like, absolutely. Get out of my life. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I'm like wondering like why he never went after her. I mean, they say he went to New York and all that, but like it's a big secret, the whole movie, right? A big secret that he's rich and he made something out of himself.
Yeah, because they're doing it as dramatically as humanly possible, but they want you to believe that he wants her to want him for him, right? I mean, it would be like, you know, what is that show? Love is Blind, I think, is the dating show where they're like, oh, okay, so you guys are going to talk to each other before you see each other, before you meet, before anything, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to see how this works. And it's the same principle, right? Where you're like, I want her to love me for me, not for the fact that now I'm rich and our kids are going to be set and their kids are going to be set. And this is a business that is going to be passive generational income.
Right.
Right.
And as much as like her character is flawed, I don't see her as the type of person that would just be like, oh, you're rich now? Okay. I don't see her.
I see her because it's proven that she is the kind of person who views him so much differently.
Yeah.
Right? She's like, wait, you're not just some hick? And he's like, no, haven't you been paying attention? Like, you know, I'm a really well put together guy. I had money in the checking account for you to refurnish my house.
Yeah.
And you didn't realize.
She, like, her first instinct was, are you doing something illegal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Not did you get a good job?
Exactly. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, if she had paid even a little bit of attention, right, then it would have been very easy for her to see like, oh, you're actually an adult now. You know, why don't I stop caring about myself just a little bit and learn about you? And that's what he wanted. So he kept everything a secret because she just wouldn't ask him. Right?
Yeah.
She didn't care. But that's what they want you to believe in this whole premise for the entire movie, so it's a secret. Then, lo and behold, his company is a glass-making company that was inspired by the lightning strike that happened at the beach they were at when they were kids. Lightning hits sand, superheats it, turns it into glass. This is a real thing that happens. In the movie, there's somebody who doesn't believe it, and I was just like, who doesn't know that, like, did you know that that's how you make glass?
I never thought. I know, like, super hot stuff. Like, you know,
Gotcha,
seeing,
okay.
like, I saw videos of people making glass, so I'm like, makes sense, but I never put much thought into lightning.
Okay. But yeah, that is a thing that happens, and personally I find it to be a really cool idea, and if it was a better movie, then I'd say it's an incredibly romantic thing, where he's like, this started with us.
Right.
Look at what I've created for us. Right? This is our history that I've now turned into something that's going to be here long after we're gone. And yeah, it's not played like that really at all. It's just good glass, cool glass. He's the glass man, yay. And she's like, oh my gosh, this glass is so cool. Let's go visit the factory so that I can get some for my wedding. shows up and she's like, oh my gosh, his plane is here. His dog is here. He's here. No way. Right? And immediately you can see that her entire world is like flipped on its head. But because he's done with her, right? Now he's just all like, okay, sure, we'll fill your order.
Yeah, treats her
Bye.
like a customer, yeah.
Yeah. Then she's like, oh no, what have I done? And she
Yeah.
starts regretting it and trying to call him, which is when he starts ignoring her.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, the wedding's happening.
You had your chance.
Yeah.
Right? The wedding is happening. The wedding basically happens. Right? Like, you've got everybody is there,
Yeah.
and she's walking down the aisle. She gets there. They're about to start pronouncing their vows. And
Her lawyer, who's been chasing her the whole, like, last, like...
third of the movie.
Yeah.
For the entire third act, her lawyer has been attempting to get a hold of her, but because he says, does anybody know Melanie Carmichael? Of course, all the locals are like, who's that? Right?
Yeah.
And they can kind of get away with that because she lied about her name in New York.
Yeah, which is, like, wouldn't her lawyer know her real name unless she, like, actually changed her name?
I think that legally speaking, she did, because otherwise she couldn't, like, patent anything fashion design wise.
That's insane. That's insane behavior.
Kind of. I mean, a nom de plume is something that authors do all the time. Do you think that's insane?
Well, it's insane if it's, like, an identity that belongs to their childhood best friend.
Correct.
They're
Right.
like,
I'm not saying that she's sane. I'm saying that her legally changing her name so that it sounds better to her or whatever,
Yeah.
like, is something people do, especially creatives.
Yeah.
Right. So, he comes in. We have this moment that's supposed to be slapstick, I guess, where he gets tackled by all of the mayoral security staff. And then he goes, wait, but you're still married. You can't get married. And everybody at the wedding is just like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and then we find out that he signed
She-
his work papers, but
yeah.
she didn't, which is like, how do you do that?
how retarded are you? So, of course, McDreamy,
Yeah.
right? Would
He's
you
just
would
been
you like to
super-
walk us through this, because I'm kind of pissed about the
He's
whole
super
thing.
chill about it all, and he's just like, the whole time he's cool with it, and then he's like, at this point, like, he's finally fed up a little bit, but he's still defending her to his mom, which we can, like, dive into now, because the mom is, like, rightfully calling her out, like,
The entire time, but real quick first, I'd like to go over the Dempsey man. Okay, this dude is the world's biggest male feminist, I guess. I don't know, like, who made this guy in a test tube, but, like, is... okay, because, literally, the guy shows up, he's like, okay, whatever, sign the papers, it's fine, right?
he's like, yeah, does anyone have a pen? Like,
Yeah. And then she starts hesitating. He's like, what's wrong? And she goes, and does the whole retarded, it's not you, it's me speech. And then
yeah, I
he
like
goes,
that.
wow,
He's all
okay.
smiley.
I really hope that you're super happy.
Yeah, he's
And
not upset at all.
he is genuinely just on board with this. And I'm going, bro,
Like, I guess she said
You
something
dodged a bullet,
unique and,
right?
like, sweet to him.
how is
and
that
not, like-
unique
no, I'm
or
saying, like,
sweet?
he's acting as if she
Oh,
said something
okay.
unique and sweet, but she just said something like
Generic
Yeah, like
fortune cookie.
AI,
Yeah.
AI. So like,
But
they put ChatGPT. Hey, how do I break up with my
To me, very
fiancé?"
much so. It's one of those things that's like, you dodged a bullet, but why are you thanking the person who shot at you
Yeah,
in the first place, right? Like, theoretically, if somebody's trying to kill you and they miss, you go, yes, you die now, right? Like,
he's just
but he's just like, yes, thank you for dumping me.
yeah.
This has been a very fulfilling experience. I'm going to exit stage right now.
Yeah, I fulfilled my purpose. And his mom goes off, as she should. She didn't say anything that I wasn't thinking.
Correct. In fact, she was rather civil
Yeah.
about the whole thing. she has her whole no, 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 you're not leaving my son at the altar. You get your little butt right back up there, and we're going through this. You're gonna sign these papers. You're gonna do all that.
What did she call
Because
her? White trash, honky, something. She did. She brought
yeah,
them all out.
like it was a very amusing sequence of words that I might have laughed at in a different context, but at this point in the movie, I'm basically just so done with her being like the definition of a Mary Sue. Because no matter which way she falls, she just like lands, on her feet in a pile of daisies. But yeah, so that happens, and then Alabama mom goes up and goes like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Now there's no need to like be aggressive here. We're at a wedding,
Yeah.
Then she starts insulting the mom, at which point Reese Witherspoon goes, "Nobody talks to my mom like that," and she gets away with punching the mayor, even though all the lawyer did was try to get in,
Yeah.
and he got tackled. I want Reese Witherspoon to be tackled and arrested again.
And then they
and
just
get
let
married
her,
in
they
jail.
Let her go take off.
But yeah,
She
they
just
let her go
punched
take
and
off.
blah, 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 blah.
It starts raining. She says, "Stick around if y'all are friends of the bride. I'm going to go rustle up me a groom."
Yeah,
and I was
she's
like, "Oh no, he almost got away." No. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
so
gotta suck for the the people there that were there for Patrick Dempsey. They're just like, okay,
I guess we're headed back to New
I guess
York
let's
now.
go walk back.
But
And it's
we're not supposed to
raining.
think about that.
Yeah, I know.
But we are
he's
thinking
not a real
about
person.
the mother who is the hero of this story. the Patrick Dempsey's mom.
Yeah.
So
we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, she's out of line. Okay. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah. She's the hero we need. Because, yeah, like you were saying, right, she didn't say anything that was wrong.
Yeah,
and
the
all
whole
things
time.
considered, she was very civil about it.
The whole movie, she's like, what? 8 months? You don't know this girl? I don't know this girl. She's lying. She's hiding something. I'm going to find out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, my mom, she's so crazy.
It's like, okay, admittedly, she's probably an incredibly paranoid and crazy person because she's a politician.
Yeah.
Right? That's just how things work. But you don't get to be the mayor of New York City without knowing two things: how to play people and how to read people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So her looking at Miss Melanie Carmichael and knowing that something is off the entire movie, it's like, yeah, I'd buy it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you're so mistrusting of your mom, other than, obviously, guys, we've all been a fool at some point, right? Because you get some hot girl that's like, hey, and then you're like, hey, and your mom goes, no. And then you say, but mom, you're ruining my life.
Yeah.
And then you go for it anyways, right? Like, it's what kids do. But in this case, mom makes a lot of good points, and she is correct on every single count.
Yeah.
And he just kind of blindly keeps walking toward her for some reason, toward Reese Witherspoon, just pursuing her. I don't get it.
Yeah.
At all. I really don't. Mom deserves to be mayor of New York City.
Yeah.
He's the hero we need.
Honestly.
And then she gets done dirty at the end.
Yeah, she's like,
decked.
villain.
And I was like, wow, you just really don't want me to like Reese Witherspoon in this movie, do you? Like, every decision she makes, I'm just sitting there going, why do you like this?
I feel like punching her was like the first active decision that she makes throughout the movie. The whole time she's like, she's kind of just there, going back and forth.
I don't know about that. Like, she actively made the decision to go to New York, then actively said, yes, I'll marry you, then actively went back to Alabama to try and hide all of the skeletons that she was about to, burn and bury. And
but that's kind of her reacting to things. It's like,
okay, so
like,
proactive. You're talking. Gotcha.
Because she's like, even when she, like we said, like you had said earlier, when she accepted his proposal, she was just like, "You sure? You're sure? Okay. If you're sure, I'm sure."
Yeah. Which, guys, I don't have any experience with this, but if you propose to a girl and the first thing that comes out of her mouth is, "Are you sure?" you should probably think long and hard before you answer that question.
Yeah. And then doesn't he say during that scene too, not to bring it all the way back to the beginning, but he's like, "I've never been he's like, at the risk of being rejected for the first time in my life," or something weird like that, where he's like asks her again.
Yeah. Whatever. Just, ugh.
Yeah,
And then we have what I guess all things considered is a very happy ending,
Yeah.
where the two who never actually got divorced are now back together and theoretically about to be back in a loving marriage, even though I'm sure reality will set in and she'll go right back to New York and they'll argue, and then he'll be like, "Well, guess what? I'm going to go start a glass empire then."
Yeah,
and
they didn't really talk about that. Like, what happens now? Because
I
she's
mean,
still up on the rise. They
they-
still said she's the person to
they live
watch.
happily ever after. Ha 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 ha.
I think,
But
I don't know.
no, I can just about guarantee you that what the movie wants you to think is that she's done in New York. She'll keep designing things, but she's now going to be the first successful hick designer who doesn't get involved in the high fashion world or whatever. And she's going to start a family and right home in Sweet Home, Alabama.
Which they played twice. Which
I mean, the two things I liked in this movie, one was the music, and two was the mom. Right? So, I enjoyed the music.
Yeah.
And Sweet Home Alabama deserved to be played twice.
Oh.
I do think so. I'm not a huge fan of the song itself, but I could see it. Like, if you're doing a county fair in Alabama, why wouldn't you play it?
It's like the law. You gotta.
Yeah. And then the second one is for the rollout of the credits of a movie named...
Which kind of made me mad, because when they did it the second time, she was like, "Oh, because the whole thing, the joke is like, he was too drunk on their wedding night for them to dance. They never danced on their wedding day."
Yeah.
And so she's like, "You owe me a dance." And she's like, "Make it a slow one." And they put on Sweet Home Alabama. I'm like, okay, that's your first dance? A choice.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. There's so much wrong, but that's how the movie ends.
Yeah, it is.
I guess, how do you feel about it broadly?
It was alright. I enjoyed watching it. I did. I laughed. I didn't cry. I didn't I like Reese Witherspoon. I think she's pretty. I think she's a good actress. But I don't really find myself enjoying, like, her characters and things. Like, other than Legally Blonde, I don't think I'm...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just bend and snap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not a fan of this movie.
I didn't
if
like
you couldn't
either
tell.
of the guys. I mean, I liked them enough, but not enough to be, like, rooting for you.
Yeah. But yeah, so, I mean, bottom line is you've got it was alright. Watch it. It's on Hulu. You might as well.
And on Tubi.
Okay. From me, you've got if you are capable of turning your brain off, unfortunately I'm not. Okay? Then you might enjoy it. But I feel like this movie was trying to lobotomize me.
Well, okay, let's end it on that. Well, a higher note, I guess, not to be too negative, Dancy's. The music was good. I liked most of the songs. And I liked the friends, the city people, the townspeople. They were cool.
Yeah, I mean...
I like Bobby Ray.
Cool-ish. I guess, like,
sheriff.
they're... The Alabama people, I think the ones that actually got development are cool, but the city people, I mean, they've got like maybe a minute each of screen time. So when you say they're cool, I'm like, I guess in theory.
Yeah.
we don't really see much.
Yeah, I don't mean the New York people. I meant like the townspeople. New York people, literally, they're just like, okay,
Gotcha.
gay fashion designer and then supermodel, and that's New York.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, biblically speaking, this movie watches like a manual of how not to live your life.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
So,
talk about.
it's an excellent teaching aid.
Yeah, because like how her whole like whole life is a lie, and she's like a big cheater. It's like those are both 2 out of the 6 of the things that God hates.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it was interesting seeing that like everything bad that like was going on was because she was like cheating and lying, where she didn't do any of that. Like, it shows like she could have had either guy by being herself. She could have had like nothing bad would have happened if she would have just been honest. The mother-in-law,
Correct.
potential mother-in-law, probably would have liked her, respected her more, because she even says in the porn, she's like, oh, if she's poor and built herself up from nothing, she's like, I actually would have respected that more, but why'd she lie? She like literally says that in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, the hero we need.
She's so yes.
Yeah.
Literally.
Just she is the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So.
And then yeah, I think that's interesting too. How like those are like, yeah, they're biblical, but they're also just like pretty standard for like not being a crappy person.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, most biblical things, especially since we're in Western civilization, are just accepted as common sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why lie when you can tell the truth?
Yeah.
And 99.9% of the time, that's true.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if I go, do you have any Jews in your attic? And you say no, I think you can get away with that. Right? Especially if you happen to live in Germany in the 1940s. But, you know, if I say, what's your name? And you say, Melanie Carmichael. And you just essentially invent this entire thing. It's like, why? Why are you inventing an entire life instead of a nom de plume?
Yeah.
Right? Because if you just say, Melanie Carmichael, you legally change your name, whatever, right? But then you're like, oh yeah, these are my parents. I was, you know, this little country bumpkin or what. Yeah, it just.
Yeah. And it's not like she had anything super crazy to hide. Normal family, normal
kind
town,
of
USA.
did, realistically.
But she got arrested one time.
No, because I mean, a fashion designer could play that off, but the fact that she's still married.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking
yeah.
of.
Will you marry me? Yeah. Let me. let me. Get
Let me go divorce this guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
With
her.
Patrick Dempsey's character, he probably would have been like, yeah, sure.
Yes. I'm like, okay, just let me know how that goes, sweetie.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I love you. It's like, oh, for crying out loud. Anyways, I think we're done talking about this movie, right?
Wait, okay.
No?
Do we think that her character is a Christian?
I think that her character might claim to be a Christian on holidays, but no, absolutely not.
No.
I don't buy it for a second. She has absolutely zero code of ethics.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But who knows? Maybe when she moves back to Alabama.
Yeah.
They don't mention it, but I feel like that culture is like.
I'm also thinking Netflix over Pureflix.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Just like, there's not anything really that's wholesome about this movie. Mm-mm. Except for kind of Bryant, the dog.
Kind of?
Kind of. But I mean, even that is ruined when she's like, Bear, shut up! And he goes, Bryant, shut up! And you're just like, no!
Dog. You just...
Yep.
That's so sad.
Yeah. So, are we done now?
Yeah, I think that pretty much, yeah.
Okay, then. This has been our thoughts on Sweet Home Alabama. I apologize for being so harsh. in particular.
She's okay. She's like a C for me. If I'm grading her, the movie.
Okay.
I don't know what
Yeah.
system you want to do.
It doesn't matter to
Doesn't
me
matter.
because literally this would be like a 3 out of 10, which is an F, which
Okay.
is like it wasn't made for me,
No.
obviously. So if you're anything like me, then I'd stay away. But yeah, other than that, this has been our relatively thorough and complete thoughts on Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
Exit stage left.